Okay, here's the scenario. I want to communicate with you, you want to communicate with me, but we want to use email to keep a legal record of our communications. So, my email program, Gmail or Outlook or whatever it is, um, that's the one I use. Now, you are a government entity. So basically, your website and your email should have some sort of .gov at the end, generally. If you don't have .gov, that's the first flag for me. If you have .com or whatever, then you're not really identifying yourself to other people and entities that you are a government employee or entity. So that's one of the first things. To keep it simple, I have Gmail. You have, let's say, WCPSS.com or ncdhss.gov or wake wakegov.com, whatever um, email program that you generally use is going to be on that server. So you have two servers involved right there, right? The less amount of servers you have, the less chance of anything being hacked. Plain and simple, right? Now, even though Gmail's got a special pay-in program that you can encrypt emails, whatever, Outlook has the same and some other stuff. Some other email service has specialized. Pronto made emails is special in that the contents itself are encrypted. So if I'm typing, send an email, it gets encrypted right away. But the body of the email, not just the attachments. Body of the email versus attachments. Body of the email is, hey, how you doing? Can we meet on so and so day to go ahead and discuss so and so matter? That's the body of an email. That body itself can be encrypted, aside from attachments. Best practice is to encrypt the body as well as the attachments. But a lot of government entities use encrypted email programs, third party servers. Here's the problem. General statutes generally govern how long your email is supposed to be kept, archived, whatever. North Carolina, that's usually 100 years. Those other servers tend to be not so limited. They tend to be 5 to 7 years of keeping stuff on their servers. If you don't use it, it goes inactive, and you won't be able to have access to it. Generally, speaking generally, not specifically to any, because there's different terms for every specific email server and email service. Um, so, but when you have a county, state, city email address, those are governed in North Carolina. Those are governed by North Carolina general statutes, and general statutes are elaborated more upon by the respective custodial policy issuing agency. I believe the North Carolina Department of Cultural Resources, or something like that, whatever it is. It's under the general statutes provision. It tell you, identifies exactly what um, that body is. So, getting back to the point, if you're writing an email, you really want to go ahead and encrypt the content of the email itself. In other words, put it in a PDF. Write your letter, put it in a PDF. Write your little message, put it in a PDF, encrypt the PDF. Then whatever file attachments you have, encrypt that. What's been happening lately is that um, a body that I know of is just they are sending using a third party server, Microsoft, whatever. So they have a government entity with government email and address, specific address, and I have Gmail, and they go ahead and use a third-party server like Microsoft. When you getting again, when you're getting more servers, the more chances it's gonna be hacked. And unfortunately, what happened is Microsoft did get hacked. You generally don't hear much about Google getting hacked. Google will get hacked every once in a while. So the point is this: best practices in this state is outlined that um, state bodies are supposed to use encrypted emails at all times. And it is suggested best practice that local city, state, local city government use also encrypted as best practice, but it's not mandatory. It's only mandatory for state. So it's a best practice issue. Um, now, um, emails are legal documents. They're supposed to be printed off and kept in files. Preservation. Why print them off and keep them in files? Because of this. If they've led to a decision making, some decision making on behalf of a consumer or state agency or a city, local, whatever, or governmental agency, or in other words, if they're not just spam or incidental notices of a meeting, whatever, those mundane things, but they are concrete, specific to relations between the government and an individual entity, then they are to be printed off and kept. Um, Now, this is the thing. They have to be kept electronically installed. Now, software changes a whole lot. Oh my gosh, they change all the lot. Some of the consistent things have been like Word and Adobe PDFs and whatever. The Adobe PDFs are generally the governmental tool used to communicate. PDF is it's customary practice. It's accepted customary practice. You don't want to send out stuff on Word because Word, you can send out a document in Word and Word can be changed. You can send me a letter. I can basically retype your letter easier in Word than I would with Adobe for most people. Now, some advanced users, it's easy in 2 steps. Within 15 seconds, you can undo that stuff. And basically plagiarize, fake, fraud, whatever, fraudulently portray yourself as a government entity, whatever. You could do a whole lot of stuff, but no matter what, everything's vulnerable. But main point is PDF is customary practice to be used. And encryption, Adobe does have encryption. PDFs do have encryption. Um, Unfortunately, when you're dealing with government computers, you definitely oftentimes dealing with archaic systems. So 32-bit encryption might not be the best, or higher bits of encryption, because their capacity to open the encrypted file may not work. Not getting convoluted here, but the more servers you have, the more chance of getting hacked. Not only that, for example, I send you an email. It's encrypted. It's encrypted from the get-go. I use Proton email, whatever you call it. I encrypt it, send it to you. It's encrypted. So you have to log in, special login just to go. But it's not kept on your email server or my email server. It's kept on a third Proton email server. And for example, Proton only keeps it for 28 days. Then it's bye-bye, adios. If you didn't print it, it's gone. That is the problem with when you're dealing with other corporations like Microsoft who are not necessarily bound by the statutes of one state. So they generally, in business practices, generally you keep emails for 5 years, 5 to 7 years. That's it. However, if your statute says you keep emails for 100 years in North Carolina, then you have to print that stuff off and put it in a file. Today, I reviewed the file. Guess what was missing? Over 400 emails. Nothing was printed. Found 3. Fine. But not the 400. Actually, it's more like 600 because I already sent them 200 in exhibits, and there was another 400 to 600 emails that wasn't, what do you call it, categorized yet. Just put in the categories and add the exhibit label on top of it. So, but notably short and missing today in a records review was printed email. General statute says you gotta print them. They're records. You gotta keep them. So when you don't keep them, it's negligence per se. What is negligence per se? There's a statute, there's a law that says you have to do X, Y, and Z. If you do not do X, Y, and Z, a prima facie case, which is an automatic case, basically says, hey, you didn't do what you're supposed to. It was in the law that you had to do it, but you didn't do it. So someone can claim, hey, look, I'm going to get damages on you because you did not do what you were supposed to do. Point of fact, open and shut case. You were supposed to. Regulations, not only is there a statute, but then the government agency that the statute refers to is supposed to enforce it, has policy and guidance issued on what you should do, and you didn't follow it. So if I ask you as a person, hey, look, I'm really concerned about confidential information, personal PHI, all those other social security numbers, date of birth, and diagnoses. I'm really concerned about that being put on the third-party server, but and you put it anyway. You don't just keep the communication between my Gmail and your government email server. No, you put it on a third server. The more servers you put it on, the more apt. Not only that, especially if you use something like Proton Mail or Microsoft Encrypted Mail, that's kept on a third-party server. So when they get hacked, you, the government agency, is liable. They're liable. And stuff like subpoenas being issued for records. Don't know how long those records are being kept on those servers. And basically, I'm never really, when you point something on those servers, not really directly delivering the message to the person because it never gets placed into Gmail. Instead, it's a reference to an email. So the body of the email is on somebody else's server. It's never really on my server. It could be on my server via encrypted PDF, but it's not. I'm making this video to help you understand that I'm not being nitpicking. I'm pointing to a reality. You use Dropbox, you use all these different third-party servers. That's an additional server. Now, traditionally, what you could do is this. For example, well, Mr. The file's too big. There's no server that will go ahead and allow me to just email it to you. Well, my dear. First of all, you can go back to a thumb drive, CD. put your contents onto a CD, thumb drive, send it over. Micro SD card, send it over. Big deal. If it's that important, that's the most secure. Fax machine is the other thing, but you don't want to stay by a fax machine and try to fax 500 pages. No, it's monotonous. But the other thing is this: if you dare send it through a third-party server because it's too big, for example, you put it on a Google Drive, just make sure that the file that you put on there is encrypted itself. Not just, oh yeah, well, I use Microsoft Exchange or Microsoft whatever, and I use the encrypted email. So no, it's the body, not just the attachments. Everything needs to be encrypted. So the message is itself, again, for example, hey, can we meet for lunch on Thursday? That's not a file attachment. That's an email, body of an email. When we need to discuss at lunch the dynamics of services to be provided. That's an official email because it references a meeting to specifically discuss an individual and agency service provision aspect, right? Sometimes you get more specific. We're going to discuss A, B, and C, and this. Whatever. Now, you could just send that unencrypted, right? You would think. Best practice is to encrypt the body of that email and any attachments. I hope you're getting that. The body and attachments, not just. For example, I got even after an agreement to use encrypted all the way, I got one response from one person responding to my email. I sent my email via letter. The letter was a file attachment that was encrypted, and the person responds back just on their regular email server without encryption. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, really? You identified all the issues that was in the original encrypted letter, but you send it unencrypted in the body of a regular email. Self-defeating. The thing is, this whole China wars, this whole Russia war, this whole cyber attacks. I mean, if you follow it carefully, these hackers have found that they get more out of emails hacking those things than they do just trying to hack a government computer or a business computer, because what ends up happening is the government employee will more than likely share trade secrets, engineering stuff, or tech secrets, or confidential information over emails unencrypted. So they target emails often because they know, hey, these government employees are not too savvy. So they'll give everything away just by hitting the button and sending a regular email. So that's why irksome is to insist on a certain format on how to communicate, but certain people haven't even realized or read the statutes that they are sworn to uphold as government employees in their state or in their branch of government. Hope this helps. Not trying to be picky, but just trying to fix stuff. The vein was dry. All I found was 3 documents in a file of over 600. I think it probably was 1,200 pages. That was before me. All I found was 3 documents that referred to emails that were sent that had letters in them. Just 3. And that was, wow. It's like someone's not being a good custodian of records. That was a record review today. Hope this helps. Um, Take care.